Zarude is a mon that's not really seen that often, but I'll tell you what, this thing's actually pretty sweet. It's a dark grass type with some all-around solid stats with base 120 attack, 105 speed, and even having better bulk than you'd think. It does have a pretty mid ability though, being only Leaf Guard that doesn't really do much for it, but it does get the option to run Swords Dance to boost, and then we can use Stab Trailblaze for some damage along with a nice little speed boost. Extra Stab with Knockoff hits hard along with Power Whip. Moral of the story, I like physical grass types, and I think this thing's just better than people give it credit for. So I don't know if I just haven't seen the movie that this thing's based off of, but Zarude is just extremely forgettable, but it's actually kind of cool, and so today we're going to show it some love. If that sounds fun to you, you should consider hitting that subscribe button. I post a whole bunch of shenanigans on here, and there's always something going on. Now with that, let's go ahead and jump into the match. So my opponent is going to go ahead and lead off with the Ngl I, and while this thing looks harmless, he looks like he's having a fun time bouncing around. This thing is pure evil, and it's annoying, but I'll lead off with a Bronzong who, can take an attack. And I'm just a Bronzong who's here to set up his Stealth Rock and potentially, if possible, and if I can stay alive, maybe go for some screens. So I am going to Stealth Rock turn 1. This thing does have an option to Rapid Spin. I kind of think it's probably Specs though, because as they go for the Volt Switch, it's going to do about half to fully specially defensive Bronzong. So it's at least interesting to kind of know what that thing's working with. Makes it a bit easier to deal with. And they're going to end up swapping into Crawdaunt. Now let me tell you, Crawdaunt this is always a mon I dread seeing on Team Preview. It does way too much damage. It has the ability to set up potentially with Swords Dance or Dragon Dance. And knockoffs, they just hurt. I don't have anything that wants to switch into that. And yeah, I get my ass knocked off into the Shadow Realm. So, down goes Bronzong. I basically get my rocks up and we're the hell out of here. So at this point, I can switch into whatever I want. And it's feeling like a pretty good time for the Zapdos. I know I can take an attack from this thing. I also feel like they probably know the value of this Crawdaunt. My team really does not like it. And I imagine they probably switch here. So with that in mind, I decided to go for the Metal Sound, which is going to be able to, if it connects, big asterisk there, if it connects, I can drop some special defense by 2 stages, and then I also activate my Throat Spray. So they actually are going to swap right into the Ngl I. I do connect on the Metal Sound, which is sweet because, now with this thing's special defense cut in half, I can really hurt the guy. Now I also get my Throat Spray, so we got a little +3 advantage on the guy, which feels good. And what feels even better is a Thunderbolt, even resisted at this kind of level, is actually going to be able to knock it out. Now, they instead are actually just going to go for the Volt Switch. Of course, this thing is fast as titties. It's moving at Mach speed, able to go for that Volt Switch. And with those choice specs, going to do a ton to the Zapdos. So, that definitely hurts. And this is then going to allow them to switch into the Venusaur. First of all, Venusaur takes the Thunderbolt nicely. But I kind of have the upper hand here in that then I can just connect on a Hurricane, hopefully, and then I kill a Venusaur, which is great. And this Venusaur is actually a bit of a problem. This fat-ass frog is, it's bulky, but I'm like, that's fine. I can go for the Hurricane, connect here, take care of it. Don't even have to worry about any frogs ruining my day. Now, of course, the Hurricane does, in fact, miss. When you're raw dogging Hurricanes, you're just expecting half of them to miss, at least. And I paid the price there. That's actually going to set me back quite a bit losing the Zapdos there, because now I got to find another way around the Venusaur, and this game is going to get super interesting. So at this point, I have 2 options. First, I could go into Zarude and potentially go for a Poison Terra and try to set up on this thing, but I decide who actually has a pretty good matchup here is going to be the Volcanion. I got the red donut out here, and there's a few reasons why this is a good switch in. First of all, obviously I can go ahead and finish it off with a Flamethrower. They actually end up GlitchxCitying, and that's going to miss, which is great for me. I do hit him with a Flamethrower, but it lives with like 10 HP, which, is mostly fine. But Volcanion's great, because what it does is it potentially baits in the Ngl I on the next switch-in, and I actually have a little secret Terra Ground, which is going to work for a few reasons. First of all, obviously I can dodge an electric attack, but also then it kind of puts them in a spot where they cannot use the Crawdaunt to hit me with a water coverage, just because I have Water Absorb. So they decide to go for a Giga Drain just before they go down. I disappear momentarily. Don't worry, buddy is back. And another Flamethrower takes care of the Venusaur, which is great. So that thing out of the way is going to be really nice. That actually opens the game quite a bit for Zarude, hopefully. And so that's kind of what I'm banking on here. And now they go into exactly what the plan is. They go Ngl I just because like a Volt Switch kills here, but I can pull out the cheeky Terra Ground. And not only that, but then that's also going to give me a little old-fashioned little stab on an Earth Power, which... Good thing about Ngl I, while it's quick, it's pretty frail. You should be able to take care of it now, especially with the damn earth on my head. It's kind of satisfying how it fits right inside of his little ring thing. But I got the fresh bowl cut, and as they go for that Volt Switch, Everything's going according to plan. I can then bop him with an Earth Power, and that is going to be a dead-ass Regieleki, which does make things a whole lot easier once again. With that fast fella out of the way, the speed tiers are open, and we're looking pretty solid here. Now, once again, the problem is freaking Crawdon is annoying. I mean, I'm really at this point hoping that maybe they forget that I have Water Absorb and they try to go for an Aqua Jet. But they're actually just faster. They can pull out the knockoff, and that's just going to kill me. I'm feeling like choice-banded Crawdon. That shit hurts. That's why I hate this thing. So I lose Volcanion. I also lose my option to Terra, and that is not ideal. It gets rid of my Assault Vest. And now I'm down to 3 Mons. I'm honestly not looking good. Here's the situation. I have an Ariados with a Focus Sash, so I know I can take an attack. I have a Choice-banded Clefable, and then I have the Zarude in the back, while they have quite a few threats left. So I decided to go into the Ariados first, and here's the thought process. If I can get up a Sticky Web, I know I can take one attack from this thing, but if I can get up a Sticky Web, that's going to make it so Zarude should be faster than everything they have. And if I can set up with the Zarude, we're going to be looking pretty good. So I do get up that Sticky Web, which is really only going to be mostly there for the Iron Valiant if it's not booster energy speed. And that's kind of just the play I'm making here. Now, I can just go for a Sucker Punch before I die, grab a little bit of chip on the fella, which is fine. It doesn't really do much, but Ariados' best value in this position was just to go for those Sticky Webs and try to open the game up for the Zarude, and that's the game plan. I obviously could have gone for a Mega Horn, but honestly, this Crawdon's best off being out there for me, because as it sits, it's kind of stuck into a knockoff, which we know that Zarude can definitely at least live one. So that should allow me to bring this thing in. And while, you know, I feel like I'm in a good spot, the one bad thing is they have a Skarmory, and honestly, it's kind of the arch nemesis of this Zarude set, because I don't have anything really to touch it with other than a knockoff, and I'm going to need some Swords Dances for that shit. So as I go for Swords Dance number 1, they are going to bring in the Skarmory here. It does take a little bit of Stealth Rock chip, but I get up one nice little Swords Dance, and with our attack doubled, we're looking pretty good, but not good enough to grab a kill on a knockoff just quite yet. So here's what I have to do. I have to hope that I can live an attack from the Skarmory to be able to set up a second Swords Dance, and we're going for the Hail Mary out here. I'm busting out yet again another Swords Dance, now at +4. We are looking really nice, and as they go for the Brave Bird, we do live. Thank God Zarude actually has pretty decent physical defense, and this Skarmory's probably not invested in that, and you love to see it. The base 105 defense of this thing, I feel like is pretty forgotten, and it honestly, it's really, it lives more than you'd expect it to. So now with 2 Swords Dances up, guess what? I can go for a knockoff, and especially with that recoil from the Brave Bird, I'm able to knock out the Skarmory, which is incredibly satisfying, and I get rid of its, well, I touch its Rocky Helmet, but I have enough health to live it, and now Zarude is actually in a pretty solid position to try to pull the old reverse sweep out. While I do have a potential answer in the Iron Valiant, it's going to rely on if it has the right item. If it's going to be booster energy speed, it will be able to outspeed me because I wasn't able to get up my own Trailblazers. So as it comes in, it does touch the Sticky Web, so it gets that drop. It also, of course, does have the booster energy, and now it's time. It is going to end up being special attack. So that means that Zarude is able to outspeed, which is insanely clutch. And I can actually, at this many attack boosts, a Trailblaze should be able to finish it off. We outspeed thanks to the clutch Sticky Webs in the late game, and that's going to be a dead Valiant. So with that, honestly, Zarude looks like we're fully pulling it out here. They've got a couple Mons left, but we've got coverage against them. They do have the Crawdon, who is only going to be able to hit me with an Aqua Jet, and luckily with this leftover recovery and just our solid defense, we should be able to take it. So first they are going to go into that Crawdon. Might as well give it a try here. It is probably choice banded. At least that's what I assume. Most Crawdons a lot of the time are going to be. They should be able to try out the old Aqua Jet, but that's why we're a bulky ass monkey here. They go for that jet. I'm able to live it insanely clutch, and then I can actually finish it off with a nice little Trailblaze. So we're having a little crawfish boil today, and Zarude is absolutely eating right now. So that's going to be a dead Crawdon. And now their final mon is actually going to be a Mew. So Mew is interesting, of course, because of the fact that it can do literally anything it wants. But also, I have the coverage with the knockoff, and I'm not afraid to know Mew. So that's going to hope that we can clutch it out here. So in comes the Mew. Pink fella's looking adorable and floating, and I'm like, let me just go ahead and bop you in the face one time, Mew. I'm faster than you, especially because I have that Trailblaze. All I have to do is hit the knockoff, and that's a dub. But they have a Terra in the back pocket. False alarm. The win is not quite secured. They are going to go for the Terra here. If it's a resist on Dark, I'm screwed. It is going to end up being Terra Fairy, which sucks. They put the heart on the head, and that's going to be not ideal. Now, while I can get a knockoff, and even at +4, it's not going to be enough to knock it out. It does do a huge chunk, but it can now finish me off with a stab draining kiss, which is extremely scary, and down goes Zarude. So while we nearly completed the full sweep, we now find ourselves in a 1v1 situation. I have myself a Clefable versus the Mew. I feel like Clefable should be able to win the 1v1, and one thing that does also help me is the fact that I'm actually physical attacking. And that's mostly because I just like the fact that Clefable gets Meteor Mash, and it was really just my idea to use a Meteor Mash Clefable, so I threw a Choice Band on it, and actually in this situation, it's going to be pretty nice for me and super effective. Now, they're going to go for a Calm Mind. One way they can potentially see a win here is if they set up enough Calm Minds. I'm actually unaware, but it doesn't even matter because they expect me to be a special attacker. I hit him with the physical attacking Meteor Mash, and the Clefable is able to clean up the game for us. Honestly, in a pretty sweet way. Meteor Mash Fable is sick as hell. So that's going to be the end of the game. Zarude clutched it, Clefable clutched it, and that was a fun one. So that's gonna do it for that one. Listen, if you've stuck around this far into the video, smash that like button for me. It really does help out the channel because YouTube algorithm and stuff. But also, we got ourselves a second game because we're never satisfied. And let's go ahead and jump into that one. So this time we're going to see a good old Quagsire lead. I'm a Quagsire enjoyer myself, but he comes in looking nice and pink, and I've got the Bronzong. So at this point I figure, you know, we're probably both just here to set up our Stealth Rock. We're going to be on our way with that. Instead, he goes for Spikes. I don't know why the hell Quagsire even gets Spikes. He just doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would be able to throw out pointy stuff, but you know, he does. I guess Stealth Rocks are pointy too. Half the time, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I set up my rocks, they get a layer of spikes, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for a Reflect here. Why not? Now, they actually decide to go for the Earthquake, and that's one way to figure out if a Bronzong is either Heat-Proof or Levitate. It turns out I am Levitate, so it doesn't touch me, and then I get up a free little Reflect, and I'm like, hey, that's pretty good. I'll definitely take that. I got the Light Clay, so it's going to stick around. And also, I decided to go for a Light Screen as well. I figure I might as well just go ahead and grab both screens while I'm here, and they're going to end up switching into the Torkoal. So one thing is, this team is very scared we're going up against. They have the Torkoal with the Sun support. They've got a Sweeper in the form of the Victory Bell, along with the Venusaur, and that's always a scary time. So I want to get those screens up to just help me out defensively, and while I do have both, I definitely need to get out of here because Bronzong is not going to be doing anything to Torkoal here. I also figure they're probably going to Rapid Spin, and as I bring in the Zapdos, they actually just go for Stealth Rock. So no Rapid Spin quite yet, but this Zapdos, you probably know the shtick with this guy. I'm here to click Metal Sound and try to get a Throat Spray while also dropping Special Defense, and that's exactly what happens. Luckily, we do connect. 85 accuracy is ass, but Zapdos does come in clutch there. We not only drop theirs, but also boost our special attack. And Zapdos looking a little bit scary. I probably should have conserved this for maybe trying to use that against the Quagsire, but now they go for the Rapid Spin, and I'm like, well, those Stealth Rocks I worked so hard to set up are gone. And it's kind of fine because I decided to go for the T-Bolt. I don't want to make any crazy over predictions just yet, but they are just going to swap right into that Quagsire. Bad thing about Quagsire also is that it is more than likely going to be unaware, so now it doesn't even notice my special attack boost with that Throat Spray, and I probably should not have set up the Zapdos at this point in the match. Now, I do want to go for the Heat Wave. I go for Heat Wave because while it's resisted, it is boosted by the Sun, and also I do not really have a shot of landing a Hurricane in the Sun either, so I also figure Quagsire doesn't really have much that it can hit me with, but they do have the Toxic, and I really thought about going for the Terra Steel, but I also figure there's no way I have enough damage versus this Quagsire. So I am now poisoned, and I'm not doing anything to Quagsire, and I gotta get my ass out of here. So I'm thinking, you know what? It's time to bring in the Furret. And this is a weird Furret, right? This is obviously it's gonna be the 2-move freaking Tidy Up and Last Resort Furret, which is very situational, but I'm determined to get this long boy to work. One of these days, it's gonna happen, I swear to God. But I come in just because I know I can take anything from this Quagsire. Luckily, even the Surf is just resisted or weakened by the Sun, so it doesn't do anything, especially through the Light Screen. And guess what time it is, baby? This place is a damn dump, so I'm going to tidy it up. We're going to pull out our little broom, and it's time to sweep it up with our little Furret tail, which is goddamn adorable. But after that, we're going to be at +1 attack and speed, and we should be faster than everything they've got, which is actually pretty cool. So I go for that tidy up. They decide to bring in the Morpeko. Morpeko, the fake-ass Pikachu comes in, and this guy is hungry. I do get rid of the stones and the spikes on my side. The tidying up is complete, and we are so vindicated by that we then get an attack and speed boost, which feels cool. So Reflect is going to wear off, and I'm not really worried because this Morpeko, I mean, it's not bulky. I can kill it with a Last Resort. That is a very hard-hitting stab normal move, and I'm like, I'm just going to bop you on with the last resort, throw some stars at him, and of course it's Focus Sash. They got rid of the Stealth Rock for a reason, and that's because this asshole is sashed, and it's able to live that. And as it fires off the Aura Wheel, I am going to die because my Reflect went away. So Furret was just not set up super proper, but, you know, one of these days, I'm telling you. So, honestly, at this point, I see the door open for actually a pretty unique situation, and that's that Zarude can come in pretty easily on this thing. It can't really touch me, and I can pick it off with a Trailblaze, should be able to grab a KO, and not only that, but once Zarude has a speed boost, we are faster than everything, and while they do have literally the entire team left, I'm like, you know, maybe not now, but at some point in this match, Zarude actually looks really nice here. Now, I say that because as they go for the parting shot, Zarude is the kind of guy, he definitely a lot of the time is going to need a Swords Dance. And the fact that I then get my attack dropped is not ideal, and as I go for the Trailblaze, they can just swap into the freaking Torkoal, who is something I considered being able to go for my Terra and Swords Dance against, but at this point with my drop, it's probably best off that I try to play the slow game. And Zarude's going to get a position here in this match, and that's kind of going to, it feels like my win condition. So first of all, I'm going to swap. I realized that the Volcanion actually has a pretty easy switch in here, just because I'm Assault Vest. Even if it has Earth Power, I know that I can live it, and then I can fire that off in return. They actually just decide to go for the Overheat, which is fine, does literally nothing, and also drops its special attack, and I'm like, hell yeah. And Volcanion is in a pretty good spot here to go for an Earth Power. So I fired that off just because it's my best damage. They actually stay in, allows it to take care of the Torkoal, which is great. So now they do not have a reliable Sunsetter, which always feels nice because they do still have 2 of the sweepers in the back. And also they got this damn thing. Freaking Rampardos is extremely scary because most of the time it's going to be Choice Scarf. It's going to hit really hard. And guess what I do again? I've been doing this recently, man. Anytime I see I see the Mold Breaker, and for whatever reason, I decide to switch into Bronzong, and they just Earthquake through the Levitate. I'm like, damn it. How am I forgetting about Mold Breaker? It's annoying. But also, at this point, I'm like, you know what? He's choiced anyway. This is actually going to allow me a free spot just to switch into the Zapdos, and I can at least threaten this thing out. And I know that they do still have the Quagsire, so Zapdos doesn't have the greatest spot, but it's a free switch in here, so I might as well take it. And the bad thing is we're freaking poisoned. It feels like a lot of stuff lost access to Toxic these days, but of course Quagsire still gets it. But I'm just here to click Heat Wave. I can at least try to take advantage of some damage from the boost from the sun, but I also hope it freaking connects. Now, they actually end up bringing in the Victory Bell here, which is great for me. The Quagsire would have been an infinitely better option, and now with the Victory Bell out of the way, that's actually super nice. The old Purple Lips gets taken care of, and Zapdos is still chilling a bit here. So at this point, now they got a revenge switch on whatever they want to bring in. And it's actually going to end up being the Venusaur. They want to try to take advantage of these sun turns while they got him, which does make sense. And this thing is going to be faster than me. The good thing is Venusaur, it should be able to, I should be able to take attack from it, or at least one of them. So I'm actually just going to go for that Heat Wave. Bad news for me, they're going to pull out the Terra. It is going to be Terra Water, which is always interesting in this matchup just because then I have a Thunderbolt against it, but it's going to be able to outspeed, and 2 attacks kills me regardless. So they actually are going to end up going for the Growth, which is, once again, very scary. +2 to special attack in the sun when you go for Growth, and with a doubled special stat, this Venusaur is definitely going to be able to pick me off, and that is scary. Wow, they do have one more, I think there's only 1 turn left of sun, so they are going to be able to take advantage of that as best as possible, be able to outspeed the Zapdos. And while they go for that Terra Water, it helps him out in like the short term, but in the long term, I'm feeling like Zarude actually now has a great ability to kind of counter this. I mean, I'm going to have to take an attack from it, and it's probably going to be baited into clicking Sludge Bomb. So, you know, one thing I can do about that is go for my Poison Terra, and that's kind of the plan. So the sun goes away, which is great. The sun management worked out in our favor. And it's time to bring in the Zarude, and now it feels like it's time. Earlier, it was a little too early, but now guess what time it is, baby? It's time to go for the Poison Terra. Gonna definitely allow me to live a Sludge Bomb, and then I can bop this thing with a nice little Trailblaze with the speed boost, which we do need to be able to outspeed like the Choice Scarf Rampardos. We're gonna be looking pretty good. So I put the skull on my head. Honestly, Zarude is pretty fitting for the guy. We look pretty badass. Now, we are faster because there's no sun. We know it's not going to quite kill, but I need the Trailblaze anyway, and it's a 2-hit KO regardless. So they do bust out the Sludge Bomb. We can take it even through the +2 special attack from the Growth. And after the leftovers, Zarude is looking great in terms of everything. We're faster than everything. We've got coverage on everything they've got left. And they've already used their Terra, which is always the one way that stops momentum. So at this point, I just go for another Trailblaze here. Gonna double the speed just for overkill. But they're gonna actually swap out the Venusaur here. And they actually end up bringing back in the Morpeko, who is basically just a Death Fodder switch in, but he's on 1 HP. There's no Stealth Rock up, but he knows he's gonna be outsped anyway. And that's gonna be a dead little hamster running on his hamster wheel in the afterlife, doing what he loved the best. So takes care of the hungry little hamster. And now they've got, what, 3 Mons left. It's going to be the Quagsire, which obviously we're great against. They have the Rampardos, and then they have that Venusaur. Now, their best bet is going to be the Rampardos. And the only reason for that is that since I don't have any Swords Dances set up, I actually need to click the Power Whip instead of the Trailblaze. I run the risk of it missing. Luckily, it connects. We whip him because he's feeling extra kinky, and that's going to take care of the Rampardos, which is amazing. Clicking Power Whip is always extremely nerve-wracking, but luckily it pays off for us there. It does connect, takes care of Rampardos, and now with the 2 Mons left, it's looking like once again the late-game Monkey Sweep is coming in clutch. Now they go into Quagsire, who, keep in mind, does have some chip on it already. So I'm like, you know what, I don't need to click Power Whip here. I'll just click Trailblaze. I don't have to worry about it. It lives it with 2 HP, because of course it does. But he's 4 times weak and it still lives. Allows it to then fire off a super effective Earthquake, but physical defense on this thing is so clutch. Randomly base 105 defense on this thing is actually amazing. So we're able to take it, which basically solidifies the match because now all I got to do is finish off the Quagsire. And then there's a Water-type Venusaur back there, which I ain't afraid of no wet Venusaur. I don't care how damp it is. So that's going to be a dead Quagsire. Honestly surprising it was able to live that Trailblaze there. That's probably because I'm jolly over adamant, but I mean, it is what it is. And guess what? After some leftover, we get one little satisfying bite of apple left, and all we got to do is connect on the Venusaur. I also don't even need to click the Power Whip because look, we got some damage on the bad boy anyway. So Venusaur comes in looking sparkly and watery, and a Trailblaze is going to be able to finish it off. So that is going to be the end of the game. I gained some newfound respect for Zarude. I feel like this thing is probably better than it's given credit for. It's just not used that often. So it's fun to pull out the guy, and that is gonna do it for the video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate all the support, and I will catch you next time. Peace out.